NOTAMs this morning, almost no wind, clear, cool air, and visibility for miles. It's a great day to go flying. Now, if gas was more affordable, wanted to talk about muscle memory from the point of view of your OODA loop, your observe, orientate, decide, and act, and especially from the perspective of back against the wall, meaning bug in, or on the move, meaning bug out.
Hi, and welcome to Yeti at Large. This is a channel focused on making the most out of what you have, no matter where you're at. Thanks for tuning in and helping out.
Being at the airport today reminds me of the OODA loop concept of decision making.
I'm a southpaw. Is it okay if I sit here? Otherwise, I'd be elbowing you all morning.
I look at ballerinas and how they practice the same move thousands of times. I look at how Lynn Swann of the Pittsburgh Steelers studied ballet to be the best receiver in the NFL at that time. Look at a breakfast cook and a server. They're models of muscle memory and that OODA loop. It's a tougher job than you can imagine. Let's enjoy our cheap coffee, and since we're not going to go flying today, let's head up to Papago Park. We'll go visit the tomb of 7-time Arizona Governor W.P. Hunt. Ironically, women had the right to vote from the inception of the state of Arizona, and the governor had to fight in court against election fraud from the very formation of this state. Here we are in the Papago Park complex. You can tell we're in the center of a large metropolitan city because we're on the glide slope of the airport. This is an amazing place that I figure a lot of folks who live here or pass through here don't know exist. We want to talk about your OODA loop. It's developed by the Air Force for a decision-making process.
This is one hell of a cage with spiked tips. Do you think it's to keep us out or to keep him in? So, not to be me, but you see this plaque right here? It's on the back side of the monument. That's where they acknowledge women got the right to vote in the state of Arizona in 1912. On the back of the monument. So there's a golf course 220, 230 yards here away from here, according to Google Earth, which makes me wonder, bro, wicked slice. If you could straighten that out, you'd be lethal.
Enough fun. Let's talk about developing your muscle memory for your own benefit.
So here's the thing that I've never understood, this cult of personality, and it ties into this current political season that we're in. This is not a political channel, but we're allowed to observe things. Pyramid in the center of Phoenix can be seen by nearly 360 degrees. This is P.W. Hunt, 7-time governor of the state of Arizona. I believe that's a record. I don't think anyone's ever held an elected office, governor, executive office like that for more terms than old P.W. there. Built in a pyramid, he said, because he loved the pyramids of Giza. It struck him so much that that's where he thought he wanted to be buried. I'm considering there's probably more to the story. So here we have one person who did one job to help the people in what we call our representative republic. And it's a leadership of the people, so therefore people need to take their turn and carry their fair share of the water. Executive leadership was never meant to be a career or a destination. It was meant to be a period of service. Read the Federalist Papers. So we have somebody here with a pyramid, and it almost seems like people get more focused on the cult of personality than they do the work that was done and the office itself. Now, I went to a political rally last night. I don't make a habit of normally going to those. I was a registered independent for most of my adult life because I believe in principle-centered leadership, and I believe in maximum liberty, maximum personal responsibility, and the smallest possible government that still allows for safe passage, safe trade and travel and all that kind of stuff. And I watched a lot of people there, and I'm excited about this candidate, and I can't wait to vote for this candidate for executive office. But a lot of the people that were there were more focused on the personality of the candidate and less on the actual work that needs to be done. And even less than that, they're focusing on the candidate as the solution, and they're absolving themselves from their personal responsibility to carry their fair share of the water and to do their fair share of the heavy lifting. It's up to every one of us. You got to be a good neighbor, good family member. You need to pick up litter. You need to do your fair share to make things better in our representative republic. So when I saw this pyramid, it reminded me of that. I went to the rally last night and I listened to the principles and the actions. And I'm really, really hoping that these people, this group of people that are highly likely to move our political ethosphere in a different direction, a more principle-based direction, I really hope they follow through, and I really hope each one of us hold them accountable to ensure that they follow through. I don't know who it was that said you get the government you deserve. I think we deserve good government, and I'm going to do my fair share to be part of that. But we're talking about the observations, and that's what I observed. Tell you, the first thing I observed is old W.P. Hunt here in, I believe, 1912. If it wasn't the first, it was one of the first, where the suffragette movement, where women received the right to vote from the adoption of statehood. Arizona became a state Valentine's Day 1912. And I believe women were empowered to vote in all matters put before the people from the very first of statehood. Somebody may correct me that there's an earlier example of that, but I think it really does go to show that Arizona has always been, since it was a state, has always been a place where everybody was included. Now, nobody's perfect, and I know there's arguments to be made in every direction, but I grew up just down the street over there, and the people in charge of my education system and my work, my job, and a lot of the things, sports and the other stuff that I participated in, came from every corner of the earth, every walk of life, and both genders. So I never knew any place other than a free and inclusive Arizona. That's my one experience. You have yours. But we're talking about muscle memory today, observations, and it makes me think of the Air Force decision-making model that I was trained in police academy called the OODA loop. You observe, you orient, you decide, and then you act. And this is how you train yourself to make decisions in crisis situations. I believe it was first created as a decision-making matrix for fighter pilots, combat pilots, but since then it's bloomed out and it's used everywhere, and I find it to be quite useful. You, as a preparedness-minded individual looking at the climate around you, whether you have questions about the uncertainty of the political landscape, the economic landscape, the environmental landscape, the sociological landscape, your own personal work future. I've been very honest about the fact that I'm in the job market now. It all starts with making observations, critical observations. Now, there's a color coding system that we used to train people when we did situational awareness and active shooter classes. And the color coding system, I didn't design it. I've just used the colors. Please don't read into what the colors actually are. I don't think they have any deep-seated meaning. If you take offense to them, I really don't mean any. So that's where we'll go from there. But observation, especially as a peace officer, but generally when you're out in traffic and around, you need to be at what we would call a code orange. Code orange. You're aware of your surroundings. I see those two planes about to land. I watch the people walk up behind me. I've looked for trash and hazards I could trip on. Code orange. I'm generally alert and aware of what's going on around me. You can elevate that to code red, where there's a crisis, there's something about to happen, emergency braking in traffic, you're about to trip, somebody in a public place begins to cause a disturbance and you're out there with your kids. That's when you go to that code red. Now, the difference between orange and red is where you've done your OODA loop and you have worked through your scenarios. How many of us have a communication plan if we can't get a hold of our family and our loved ones if cell phones go down? If you don't, please get one. Ours includes everything from tape and predetermined routes and decisions on who is going to move and who is going to stay put and where we're going to move to. We've wargamed all that out so that if this afternoon I can't get a hold of my loved ones and my family, they have a pretty good idea of the route I'm going to take to go to them. I'm the one who's going to move in most situations. My kids are all on the East Coast now. I miss them very much. But they're adults now, so they're working out their own plans. There's not much I could do to help them in a short-term thing. But that by making those plans and observing that ahead of time, it allows you to react quicker than to be lost in the sauce. Now, when you're in code red, you're functioning because you've rehearsed this multiple times. I can't tell you how many times, north of 20,000, probably closer to 23,000 times, I practiced drawing my duty pistol. For that one moment that if I needed it in a hustle, I don't have to think about it. It's automatic, and I presented it in a good, stable platform, and I'm ready to address the threat that I need to. That's an extreme example of an OODA loop. A lot of things maybe don't need to be practiced that much, but go beyond the communication plan. What are you going to do if you are in an accident or you have a mechanical issue? Do you have the tools? Have you thought this through about how you're going to continue to function? And in code red, that emergency, you've had an accident, you're addressing life and limb first and then property issues second. But you can function in code red because you've had this scenario where you've practiced observing a risk, orientating yourself to it, meaning, okay, what am I dealing with here? I'm really aware of the risk that's going on. And then deciding, this is what I want to do, and then acting on it. Now, between that decision, that moment you have mentally decided to make an action, and the action itself, a minimum of 3/4 of a second to affect a physical reaction once you've decided to do something. In emergency braking, that 3/4 of a second feels like a lifetime, especially if you're Jeff Hornacek and you're guarding Steve Kerr, knowing that Steve Kerr's a 3-point threat. 3/4 of a second's enough time for him to end your season. Thank you, Jeff Hornacek. So in code red, it's you've rehearsed that OODA loop. You're ready to function. Code black means you're not functioning at all. You are so overwhelmed by the situation that you're unable to observe anything. You're not orientating yourself to what's going on. You're incapable of making a decision, and therefore you're not acting on it. That's what happens when you are so overwhelmed with input and stimulus and the situation. It can be very, very troubling. In public safety, we drilled relentlessly. We trained relentlessly. We performed qualifications every year. We did physical training, and we're trying to build that muscle memory. But it's perishable. We use that term all the time, that these skills are perishable. So many of our emotional skills in coping with stress and trauma are perishable too. Doesn't mean you go out and try to rehearse losing a loved one, but you make sure that you have your house in order with those people. Those lines of communication are open and you've established the relationship clearly. I figured I was going to ramble quite a bit on this one, so bear with me. Let's hope it comes together in the edits. On the opposite of code black, you're not functioning because you're just so overwhelmed, is a code white, and that's where you're making no observations at all. Everybody has seen someone in traffic completely clueless of what's going on around them. Ever drive across a college campus anytime recently and seen the kids? They don't even look up from their phone. They just walk right through traffic, don't even looking. They've got their earbuds or their earphones on, they're buried in their phone. I love that video of that person walking into the fountain at the mall. That's code white, just clueless. Please, please, don't go through your physical, your emotional, or your economic life in a state of code white. There's no downside to taking some observations. Where are your finances? What can you do to protect yourself in a bad economy? Some people talk about moving money and investing in assets, precious metals. I'm invested in tangibles, and I feel as though I'm slightly inflation proof because I have a low mortgage, a small mortgage with a low rate. And if the banks stop functioning, well, the mortgage company can stuff it. They can go to the bank and get their mortgage payment from them. That's beyond my control. I'm not going to worry about that. I got a little bit of cash. I got a little bit of nest egg put away. Ask yourself, was your nest egg laid by a quail or an ostrich? I'm going to guess most of us are sparrow to chicken in that scenario. Prioritize things that are going to keep you healthy: food, medicine, water, clothing, and then work your way up from there. Most of us have no disposable income and probably no hope of generating any in the short term. if that's your scenario and you got a little bit of food put away and you've paid off all the bills that you can. So there's a National Guard armory over here. I did a special just a couple weeks ago on their museum, searching for the triple nickel. But instead I found a Medal of Honor winner, Sylvester Herrera, and a pilot, Ron Byrne, who spent 2,700 plus days in a POW camp after 23 and a half missions. So that muscle memory, you can create muscle memory by doing something physical. I talked about those pistol draws. That's muscle memory. You can create an emotional muscle memory by making real checkpoints to communicate and open up and connect with the people in your life that are important to you. Husband and wife that have date night, and family that has game night or family dinners and stuff like that. That's a version of a muscle memory, and it leaves those options open so that you can address those issues. You can have a financial muscle memory. Penny saved is a penny earned. Instead of going out, stop, put that money that you would have spent in an envelope somewhere else. I know that that's someone else's proprietorial message, but you can take that money and instead of giving it to somebody else, put it away and enjoy being hungry or thirsty for a moment. It'll create much more of a drive for you to not leave your house without being prepared. Bring your own coffee with you. Bring your own food with you. Never go anywhere without food, water, snacks. If you're diabetic, think about the kind of snacks you need to keep your blood sugar level. Developing that muscle memory. And can somebody please tell me why this guy's buried in a pyramid? In the 80s, we had a band called In Living Color. They had a great hit called Cult of Personality. I was a huge fan, saw them live once at the Mesa Amphitheater. Great show. I'll leave a link down below. Please listen to that song and read the lyrics carefully, just like you should read Rudyard Kipling, Gods of the Copybook Headings. I'll leave a link for that down below too. I did a recital of that. Please know and understand those contemporary and historical cultural checkpoints. It'll help you understand what's going on around you right now. Thank you for tuning in. Hi. This is a great audience. Please share this channel with somebody. Tell a friend. Give me a suggestion on where I can go, what I can do. I like the negative suggestions as much as I like the positive ones. There's much to be learned from both. Here we are in the center of the valley. One of the best kept secrets in all of Phoenix. I suspect many people don't even know this place exists as well as they should. Looking southeast towards Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert. East towards Mesa, the Superstition Mountains, as framed by power lines. Turning almost northeast, you'll see Four Peaks over Scottsdale and the Pima Tribal and McDowell Mountain Tribal Nations. Looking due north, we're going more through Papago Park. Extensive waterways down here. Camelback Mountain framed behind Hole in the Rock and Papago complex. Turning to the northwest, Surprise, Arizona is way out there in the distance. Looking a little more west, the White Mountains. And here we're at the base of Governor Hunt, H-U-N-T, Hunt's tomb. Had it built in the shape of a pyramid. Conspiracy theories activate. Turning, there's downtown, Phoenix area, Central Avenue, Sky Harbor Airport. We are on the glide slope of most of the flights. Sky Harbor is an incredibly busy airport. And just so you know, if you've flown into Sky Harbor and you have an 8-hour layover, you do not have enough time to get to the Grand Canyon. You do not. Don't rent a car and try it. Turning past the South Mountain Range, Ahwatukee, Tucson's out there somewhere. There's downtown Tempe. And back to the Phoenix Zoo, which is right on the edge of this.